arm, and we're able to keep his hip at bay. And then we go right back into our guard scenario. Most of the time, this isn't going to happen, though. Most of the time, when a pretty experienced player is past our guard or he's in this scenario, he's in the process of working himself up. So when we go to the top hip, we must be prepared for him to drop down to my elbow with the left arm and sit through forward facing. And when that happens, I go right back, immediately back to the move that we just covered. My elbow drops down to the hip and I bump and bring the wedge in, okay? It's very important that when he's down low, that I'm on this hip and I don't overcommit my push. It's a stiff arm and I move myself away from my stiff arm, but at all times, if he sits forward, I must be ready to bring my elbow down to the bottom hip and lay off of this hip. Because if I continue, as we saw before, we switch the hip. If I continue to push for all I'm worth and he sits through and lifts my elbow, now my arm is way out of position. And now I've got to win this elbow back into position through bridging and bumping and turning, and it becomes quite problematic. Or through posting on this elbow with my top hand and then winning my arms back in and taking a post effect and then bringing my elbows back into position, which is a very viable defense from there. But if we can keep our elbow attached to the bottom hip, and if he's down low, I can stiff arm and push, but if he sits through, we just hold our elbow in. It'll make our lives much easier because now we can hit our same move that we just went over. We hit that crowbar style sweep and we return to guard with relative ease there. We're gonna move into the cross-side escape of what I call head and hip cross-side, which is just particularly this. If Nick lays down, I'm gonna show you guys. Head and hip cross-side, I call this position here head and hip cross-side. Let's go over head and hip cross-side real quick, and we're gonna talk primarily right here about this control where my left arm is on one side of his body, on the opposite side of his body. My right arm is by Nick's hip. And then we may or may not be on our knees. We may be completely sprawled because obviously with head and hip cross side, the strength of head and hip cross side is that I can move. I'm much more mobile. I have a hand down here by his hip. I'm able to lay my chest weight in there and I'm able to move around. Remember, just from cross side pinning, it's a great idea because guard is such a strong tool in jiu-jitsu that I have to monitor this hip right here. I've got to always, if I'm cross-side anywhere near his legs, I need to monitor this leg. From head and arm cross-side, I use my near knee to monitor that hip. From head and hip cross-side, we use our right arm to monitor the hip. And because it's my arm monitoring this hip, head and hip gives me the ability to run around, be much more mobile, and things like this. Now, thank you, Nick. What are the weaknesses of head and hip? Because head and arm has an inherent weakness that you can be put in guard. I mean, it's hard to completely block somebody's leg from coming in if the space is there with my hip. Even if I put my hip on the floor, we saw how to make a wedge and lift their hip up and then use a crowbar. So with head and arm, our weakness is guard retention, okay? With head and hip, the weakness isn't so much of guard retention because I have my arm to block a leg from coming in. It's a single leg. So the prime escape from head and hip, the primary escape will be a single leg. But let's discuss that single leg mentality. First and foremost, the elbow escape from bottom of cross side. We need to use it like a jab. It's a jab tool. So it's gonna be my move, my first move, even though I know I wanna go for a single when I'm being pinned in a static position. I'm still gonna try to get my knee in. And what that will do is one of two things. If Nick is bringing his knee in from a good elbow escape from the bottom, on head and hip, if I don't do anything, he may get the knee in. If I don't respond well when he bridges and brings his hip out, he very well might get that knee through the crook of my elbow. That's a high likelihood if I do nothing. And then this leg comes over my head and he is beginning to get his way out of cross side and into a guard. Okay, so guard retention could work very, very well even against head hip if A, you are exceptional at it, or B, I, as a top player, just don't respond well, and that could happen. So we try it. For number one, it might work. Number two, why do we try it first? It's like a jab. Like I said, it's like a jab. So what happens is it will give me something to block. It gives me a block. I must block this knee with my right arm, and it's gonna give Nick the time to go to the single. So when he starts to go into the guard, I have to block this. And by blocking, I end up bracing my body and my weight, which opens up the time for him to bring this arm in to the legs and go to the single. Okay, so we use our elbow escape like a great jab as a setup to a right hand, okay, or a hook. But that single comes immediately after we get the leg blocked. Okay, and this could become because he's already head and hip. This might be the same, a single leg as a counter to my counter. So if I'm head and arm, cross-side, and Nick goes to the guard, and I defend by switching to head and hip, there's his single as well, okay? So our primary defense that we're gonna take a look at right now is our single leg, and those are the reasons why. It's open up. One of the other prime reasons why it's a single is such a good attack on a head and hip is because there is no underhook of this arm. Obviously from head and arm, there's an underhooking of this arm. So for him to bring his arm under this arm is very, very difficult. When we're holding head and hip, that doesn't exist. There's nothing on this side of his body to underhook that arm, and therefore a single leg, very, very good idea. So we're gonna look at now the methods of a single leg. All right, let's take a talk first about the single leg of some of the mechanics that we really, I like to stress on a single. When we turn to the single leg, okay, there's some things that are exceptionally important. All right, first and foremost, when I'm cross-side, I'm held across side, and Nick, he chooses a head and hip cross-side. The first thing is that besides the initial bridge, it's my jab, it's my initial bump up, elbows up, the knee tries to come in, he stands strong, we go. Now, the right hand being in the armpit, it's already underneath my training partner. So if I chose to use this right hand as a frame, I'm gonna have to win that hand position, okay? If it's already underneath him, I don't need to win that hand position. It's ready to go. That's a second primary reason besides one, to avoid submissions like the American lock. Two, because it's underneath him already. It's underneath. So I'm ready and primed to go to a single, okay? Let's just talk about body position, okay? When you go to a single leg, I've got to get my right shoulder